And I hope that you've really revised through a lot of questions. Of course, we've been doing predictions here, and I'll still go on to do it. Automatically, for question 1A and B, you understand that we must have a creative composition. Now, most people ignore creative composition. They think it's not a worth revision, but it is. And what I normally advise to students is that you must have a bank of idiomatic expressions, have a bank of phrasal verbs, have a bank of vocabulary, okay? A word like a teacher, are you sure whether you have other words that are similar to teacher, but you can use them that so that you avoid that repetition or redundancy? Friend, automatically most of the conversations have the word friend. They have the word maybe villain or maybe malicious individual or evil. Such words automatically will come there. We have words such as hijacker or let's say robbers. Do you have synonyms for these words? Look at the verbs you commonly use in your compositions, whether it is maybe saying deceiving, jilting, such words. You have to get the synonyms to such vocabulary so that you have a weighty vocabulary in your work. For example, if you're talking about it was strange, do you know that you can use bizarre, you can use weird, and many other words? If you're talking about something that was exciting, do you know other words like hilarious, exhilarating, scintillating? So having a wide range of vocabulary on the common words you normally use in your work, whether they're adjectives, whether they are verbs, whether they are nouns, is a very important step in creative writing. It's also necessary that if you know your weakness in writing, you understand that you are not very good in writing, go ahead and read maybe about 4 compositions, and you may even have to cram them. You may even have to cram them. Umekunywa tafuta dawa ukunywe, wacha kunisinya. So automatically, this process of scoring in paper 3, question 1A or B is intentional. All right? We have to make intention for us to score highly in question 1A or B. Reduce the volume of that. So such intentions come through targeted revision, and this targeted revision goes by what you know scores. Now remember, currently language mark is scoring very high, whether it's in paper 1, paper 2, or not paper 2, paper 1 and 3, okay? So do not make an assumption that by just merely writing verbatim or parody or maybe simple constructions will really score. Now you need to remember that when you are dealing with question 1 and question B, the language competence is very critical. Why? Because we are targeting to have lawyers and people who actually can communicate in English. So what are we doing here? We are seeking to see people who are going to come out of high school with the ability to manipulate language, to use variety of statements. And that is why students need to understand that when you are writing a composition, you need a variety of sentences. Let's say functional classification of sentences as well as the structural. All right. So when you come to structural classification of sentences, we know that we have complex, complex compound, simple, and such categories. Now, when you're writing, I've seen some students who tend to use compound sentences throughout their work, and it becomes tiresome for the reader. You need to mix simple sentences with complex and compound complex. And of course, I hope you understand this kind of sentences. Those sentences that have coordinating conjunctions such as and, but, or. Then we have others which have words like because, after, although, due to, you know. So those ones, of course, they are in their own category. Then now we have those which combine both. Okay? So make sure that when you are writing your sentences, you have those varieties. When you come to functional classification of sentences, we know that we have questions, interrogatives, that is, sentences that ask questions. Now, when you are writing your composition, consider the aspect of reflection. Why had it to happen? Why me? Who else was watching? Was God really against me? Why on earth would my mother do that? As I sat down to think about it, I wondered, why did I become such a foolish individual within a short period? Did I not work with faith to put myself in a fix? So such questions are supposed to help you to reflect and allow you to really create, suspense as you're writing your work. Then we have exclamations, actually to show sometimes mild emotions, sometimes just to show the weighty aspects. How wonderful the day was. What a beautiful scenery I saw before me. Such exhilarating news. Okay? So you use the kind of sentences that are exclamatory. Then come to statements. Of course, statements are used more in this kind of work. Then we have orders. Where there is conversation, you can create room for orders where you are ordering for something. Remember, conversation is very important in a composition. However, make sure that your conversation is not just a general statement of how are you? I'm fine. Did you eat? Yes. Don't make that mistake. When you bring dialogue into your composition, make sure that either it is revealing something that we have been waiting for to hear, or it is creating tension, a conflict, or it is signifying a motive in your work, okay? Maybe a conversation that will let us know why you did something. A conversation that will let us know why what the major problem in your composition is. Antonio Aranda, how are you? I can see you are new here. Welcome. Feel at ease, and please consider to subscribe to the channel. And as we go through this prediction moment, I have actually been away from prediction for some days, but I'm picking up from today up to the day the exam will be done. So thank you so much for the like. I've seen one like there, and I'm so appreciative. Thank you so much for all of you who are watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. I can see Shadleski. Huh? Shadletiski Girl 3. Welcome here. Thank you so much. So throughout the year, we have been setting questions in mocks, mock panels, and what have you. Now, what do I tell you? Thank you so much and welcome. Now, what do I tell you about paper 3? And I've already talked about question 1A particularly. And of course, question 1B is related to question 1A, though this one comes as an argumentative writing. All right? Now, argumentative writing is not just asking for you to give us as many points as possible. Haraka, haraka. All right, Shadletiski Girl 3 says Shadletiski is from Air Game 3. You are beautiful, then don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Okay, thank you. So let's proceed into our discussion, okay? And I hope that this discussion will help candidates of 2025 and even any other year. So when we talk about predictions, actually we've looked through a number of papers that we've interacted with. I've interacted with about, I can say about 50 different mocks. And at the same time, we've been setting a variety of papers for candidates 2025. Now, what I can assure you, question 1 and B, we are done with it. And when you come to argumentative writing, don't think about the number of points you are writing. However, still you cannot tell me that if you are only going to argue with one aspect, that is enough. Argumentative writings, okay, when you're doing creative writing, you are supposed to be so sure about the point of division. Dawa yenye iko hapo ya homa. Hiyo ni inaitwa ni? Tana hiyo ni ya tumbo. But maybe the other one. Something amoxi something. Si ndio? Yeah. Okay. T, umetafuta? Iko wapi? Umeweka kwa kiti? Umeweka kwa kiti? Okay. Jifunike na hiyo blanketi uache kuachia na kunywa dawa. Okay, so we are proceeding. I was talking to these girls here. Of course, as I've said, in an argumentative writing, you need to understand some things. Among some of the things you need to understand is the fact that when you are actually having a discourse surrounding an argument, you're supposed to build your concepts, in depth. The fact that you know what is happening around the world, you know what other people think, and you understand your point of view. At the end of the day, when you're writing an argumentative conversation, you are supposed to show us your perspective. For example, let's talk about the fact that you are saying that corruption cannot be eliminated in a country. Of course, you may decide to say that even though corruption cannot be eliminated in a society, it can be reduced through systematic approaches that a country can choose to do or to apply. You can tell us that given that our society is brought down by corruption all the time, if corruption is not structurally fought against, then most nations are going to be at risk. You can indicate that the reason why corruption cannot intentionally be eliminated is as a result of how it has been, created as part of the culture in most societies. Then bring out some of the situations you've had on media. And most of them should be rulings, things that have really come out clearly in newspapers. So as you discuss in every paragraph, you show us what you think, your resolution, what people think, and then your stand. And you write about 5 paragraphs or so. With weighty vocabulary, you can even use proverbs. You can quote also some reports or news lines or something like that. Away from that, I'll assure you that question 2. Obviously, we know it's coming from Fathers of Nation. I've done a lot of analysis on this. And the common questions that I've seen throughout this year. Today, I'm not going to touch on a particular question. But if I may remember, I've interacted with about 20 common questions. Let me just try to see whether I can recall. Number 1 question is touching on the fact of choices and consequences. And when you look at this question, choices and consequences, it's more geared towards the 4 travelers in the text. That is Tahir, Melusi, Kimani, and when you talk about Chineke Chamaka. All right? So that question has been very common, the fact of choices and consequences. Okay? Yeah. Another question that has been very popular in this book is about the fact of corruption. Okay? The fact that corruption leads to suffering of citizens. And when you look at corruption, I don't know why students don't see the fact that in Kenya, we have two aspects of corruption. The fact that the members of parliament kind of raise their pay. They don't want to pay taxes, but they keep accruing a lot of wealth for themselves out of not paying tax, while reducing that amount that the elites have to earn. And you might go deep into Alomu and explain about that. Also, looking at the fact of how Kimani is treated when he goes to Walomu's office and fights, that is a sort of corruption because it's under favoritism. Why did they have to punish Kimani for 6 years imprisonment, demotion, and leave Walomu scot-free when they fought? It's not a fact that he beat him, but they fought. Okay? Now, when you come to another aspect of corruption, I think you saw in Gambia, there was a lot of corruption on the streets, whereby the traffic jams were created after a rare tarmac was put on the roads. And we can see evidence from the driver, the taxi driver who was taking Fiona from the field interview to the office. This guy is forced to actually pay almost everything. He's raffled up. So that's what's rigging. And we have a specific consideration of Bangora. So the fact that presidents have to rig election, that is a form of corruption, right? And you can support that through what Third Longway says, and many other. The other question that I've really encountered a lot is about women, and the fact that women empowerment has saved most of them from situations that they could have encountered with difficulty. And of course, that is surrounding Pamela, Fiona Mackenzie, we are seeing Asia, and Tuni, right? Women empowerment and how it has helped them to sort out their mess. Those are three questions that are very common from Fathers of Nation. I've also seen a question about selfishness or oppressive leadership is prone to make citizens suffer. It inflicts a lot of suffering in the citizens. They have said selfish leaders tend to inflict a lot of suffering among the citizens. And if you check this question, it's actually focusing on the government of that is Kenya, how it inflicted suffering on Kimani. We have the government of Nigeria, how it inflicted suffering on Chineke. The government of Libya, how it inflicted suffering on Tahir. And we have the government of Gambia, how it inflicted suffering on citizens during the moment when when we had the summit itself. That fountain of water, the clearing of roads and outlets. That's the same thing that if you're watching news, you are seeing at Kitui, right? You saw that billionaire businessman trying to address President Ruto. And you can get to a mileage of so many other characters. Those are 4 questions that are very common. The 5th common question that I've witnessed from this text is that hope. Hope is the only thing that we can hang on despite the challenges we face. And this question is geared towards looking at the 4 characters again. If you look at Tahir, Melusi, Kimani, and Chineke, the only thing they remain with is hope. But you have to give the background information surrounding each hope that one of them or each of them hold. Okay? Those are 5 questions. I want to add more. The other common question that I've been seeing is about the fact of technology and how it can harness or help. Both, we have one question focusing on technology, another one focusing on media. So you can decide when you're talking about media, of course, you know what media did in this story, how it came about with the rules that saved the situation in the summit. Technology also saves the moment when one of Dibonso is raising a firearm against the chair of the entire summit. Then you understand that it's through technology that we actually have this silent listener harvesting a lot and getting to track who Abiola is in relation to the four, and also have now Fiona coming into the picture. Now, it's also through technology that we get to have these people meet, because I don't think Third Longway would have met all these four without pursuing technology. Okay? Yeah. Now, the other question that is very common, I think those are 5 already, it's about revenge. That revenge does not pay. It, however, makes us suffer more. And when you look at revenge, what are we looking at? We are looking at Melusi. Melusi has 2 different points. You can separate them. You can that is the point he forms the party, and through the party that he forms, it creates a lot of problem for him. Then we have that aspect of attacking the president during the summit. The other aspect of revenge we can talk about is for Tahir. Tahir actually, after approaching Mahmoud, and now he decides that he's going to beat her up, and in the process he loses his eye. Then we have Mahmoud herself. The moment that Tahir beats her, then she decides to let loose in the moment of fury the parcel opener, and it slides into slashes into the eye of Tahir. At the end of the day, she loses her eye too. We also see revenge in Kimani. At the end of the day, what happens? Kimani ends up losing his high professional. He loses also peace, because he is in despair. We are told that he could not now sleep peacefully. He also goes into jail for 6 months. Now that is question number 7, right? The question number 8 that has been very common in most of the papers that we are looking at is neocolonialism. The fact that neocolonialism is here to stay and it's invading into Africa. Of course, when you look at Fathers of Nation, there are elements of neocolonialism, even through the aspect that this change, both for Path Alpha and Way Omega, are brought from external, not from internal. We also see the fact that when we look at the decision of seating arrangement, the way the presidents have to sit, it is decided based on American standards of pursuit of alphabet and all that. That is an American way. So which means people are still under neocolonialism. Now, the other thing we learn about neocolonialism is the fact that, the people who came up with the first strategy, that is Way Omega, they are also particularly people from those developed nations, but they are trying to pull Africa into that change. And you realize that during the time they wanted Africa to change, they told them that if they don't focus towards change, they'll not get any help. Okay? Yeah. I can assure you that if you also look at the use of VOK, the VOA is dominating even during the summit. That is neocolonialism. So that's a common question I've seen, and most students don't know how to get around it. The other question I saw students having a problem with is when you discuss the aspect of poverty and its effect in Fathers of Nation. Please look at Kimani. See how his life is frustrated because of poverty. Look at Melusi. See how his life is frustrated because of poverty. Look at Gambia and see the poor people who strain with the outlets, and their life is crumbling down. Then you also have to check on other nations whereby their presidents keep, rigging elections. And it's out of the fact of citizens being poor that they can't make decisions on their own. Rather, they are forced to take up what is there because they have no way to deal with their situations. The other common question, let me see. The other common question that has been standing out in this text Uh-huh. Technology, I've already talked about it, so we are on question number 9. I'm trying to see question 10. I think question 10 is about traditions. The fact that when people are stuck in the African traditions, or rather those old traditions, sometimes they mess them up. And this one you can look at the fact that when we look at the lives of some of the characters, the pursuit for tradition actually ruins them. Yeah, it really ruins a lot of characters in the text. And I think Abiola, when you look at Abiola, you realize a lot about the fact of people touching on tradition. Then the fact that we have inherited leadership in Africa, we've seen that it ruined how leaders took serious matters governance. The other aspect of tradition comes where Nimbo, maybe it's the same concept with Pamela, but now you look at it differently. On one end, look at the attack on Pamela. On one end, look at the way Nimbo is mistreated, actually almost beaten up in Abiola's house for having adhered to traditions. Then, which other? If we look at the text, maybe we can see the aspect of, because we've talked about Pamela, we've talked about Nimbo, we've talked about the aspect of maybe Ms. Mahmoud also, all right? Because the Amharabic law, that is somehow attached to traditions in the text and how they affect that life. Another question focuses on partly the poor leadership, but now just not just general insecurities in a country can mess up everybody. And I think when you look at the text, you look at Fiona, the fact that she is vulnerable in the hands of Mola, and how these are handled. Then look at Tuni, how insecurity on the roads lead her to the downfall. And even the discussion she has with the father, the fact that Africa is now demanding that people have their own personal securities. That is question number 10. I'm trying to just gather my mind because I'm not referring anywhere. I'm just using a reflection of what questions I've interacted with a lot to recall this. What are the... I think those are common 10 questions. I don't know whether I can get 10 others that I've been easily interacting with, but I think those 10 questions are very common. And out of the 10, I doubt if none, we will miss any of this coming out. Actually, we won't miss, because from the many papers I've interacted with, the question is about women empowerment and vulnerability of women, of course, as a different concept. Of course, this brings in question 11, the aspect of media, the aspect of choices and consequences, the aspect of revenge and how it affects that those people want to revenge, the aspect of poor leaders who lead to the suffering of the citizens, or selfish leaders. So it can be either poor leaders, selfish leaders, or even corruption itself in general. Then the aspect of neocolonialism, as I've told you. Then when we come to the concept of hope as the only thing that people can hang on to for a positive impact in their life, the aspect of um, traditions and how they can ruin families. The aspect that change is inevitable. I was forgetting that question number 12 now. Change is inevitable. That in life, there is no way we can expect situations to be permanent. Things can get to the worst or the best, but that change is inevitable. Remember Libya. Libya example of how the president used to like war, creating arms, and later on he rejected. The way Chineke used to be a reckless driver, he changed and became a preacher, and later on he's banned from it. The fact that Kimani thought his born teacher will die teacher, but then at some point he has to get away from it and say, good riddance. Then the fact that Abiola had been in the comfort of marriage, but the divorce had to happen, and the fact that he had believed he would have his own biracial children, but at the end of it he has none, okay? And so many other ideas. Then we have the aspect of racism in that text that you can also look at. The fact that we have a lot of racism. Even the way Kimani looks at this guy, Tad Longway. The way Abiola looks at Tad Longway also in the plane. Yeah. The way Fiona is questioned as in relation to her name and whoever she is. The way even Abiola, when he goes to give that speech, looks at a biracial child and interprets what kind of child he would have with Pamela. And the way Abiola's family treats Pamela. Then we've talked about traditions in the society. I think we've talked about that. Another question that has been common, question number 13, it's about unity. The unity of purpose always leads to success. Whichever way they twist it, it's just around there. And of course, that one you should focus on the four characters. At the same time, you should, the fact that the Agda itself is a unity. Then the fact that Melusi loses in election because of lack of unity, it's also giving you that. The fact that when you look at which aspect, Tahir's nation and how it comes down is due to lack of unity among those who think president is doing right or wrong. Then even in the geared change, the leaders are not aware of what is happening because there is no unity. Then the unity of purpose that integrates Fiona with VOK members and the other four also gives them success. Yeah. Those are 13. Hey, the other 7. How else? But I think we've reached almost 15. But getting the other 5 is just a little bit of twist surrounding the other questions. Then now when it comes to Parliament of Alls as a book, is a book that some students are taking. Actually, I've seen a number of them. And this book surrounds aspects of hypocrisy. Yeah, hypocritical aspects in the text. Whether you look at Veteran P, you look at, whether you want to look at the Royal All, whether you want to look at this guy who was frustrated by the rest of the birds, Hornbill. Hornbill, the other name is, no, Wachongore is not Hornbill. The one, Arumtidi, the Hornbill. Then we have Oyundi, of course, is not hypocritical, but we have Telltale. Telltale used to be hypocritical at some point, okay? Then usifute kwanza nikienda wakati na download. Umeweka zote. But sasa hata niki the reality is that actually Fathers of Nation is a limited text. That's the reality. The candidates 2025, we are so lucky. The question that can come out of Fathers of Nation cannot be compared to the Samaritan. Predicting the Samaritan is a bit complex compared to predicting Fathers of Nation. You know, last year we tried a lot of questions, and I remember mentioning the fact that it's so easy for them to set on Nicole and the aspect of firmness. And we kept revolving around Nicole as the voice of reason. And most students didn't take it serious. Even when I did the prediction, they never listened, but it just came as it is. Now, as we were talking about Parliament of Alls, there is this character, how do we call him? The one who is forcing people to, the speaker. Oh, money bags. Money bags is also very hypocritical. So the aspect of hypocrisy has been tested in a lot of papers. So if you are doing for a Parliament of Oz, please check on that question. When you come to another common question is about poor governance at large. And of course, the characters I've mentioned again come out there. Yeah, we have the only people that stand away is Oyundi, Osogo, and we have Iron Lady. We have Telltale later on, and um, among Veteran P, yeah, somehow. But when you look at the opposite, that is the Royal All, Moneybags, or Arum TD, when you look at a Royal All and who else, most of them are having that poor governance, okay? Now, I want you to also look at the fact of oppression. It has been tested a lot, oppression or suppression, the way oppression and suppression really hounds characters in Parliament of Alls. And this one revolves around, again, the same characters, but you just have to remember the details around what they did, whether it's the killing of the weavers by sending, the python right there, and how Oyundi had to structure and find the ants to attack, how Oyundi has been arrested, how Osogo has been threatened by moneybags, how Arumtidi has been cheated around by both moneybags and red string, you know. Yeah. So poor governance, whether it is corruption, whether it is selfishness, whether it is oppression, suppression, all those, they are tested in equal measure. The other thing is about the fact of hope and determination gives success. Whether they ask about hope, determination, hard work, or unity, please focus on how Telltale, Oyundi, Veteran P, Iron Lady, who else? Osogo unite in purpose to outdo them. And of course, they cooperate with other daybirds to overcome the bills that have been brought to them, including the, the noise, the whatever. We saw this being brought by Arumtidi, that they should not, sound pollution bill should be brought about. But Moonlight Bill was the major one, which had been sponsored by Moneybags, with the interest of supplying mayonnaise, lizards, frogs. Yeah, all this was not the best thing to do. Okay? Yeah. Now, I think for Parliament of Oz has very limited questions, just like we used to have the previous book by David Mulwa. If you remember, it used to have very limited questions. However, be assured that Parliament of Oz has a lot of details. In a paragraph, you might need to have 7 or 8 sentences where you're just supporting how, when, why, who, what, for you to finish a sentence. One mistake the students conduct is lacking the topic sentence. Please relate the question to bring out the topic sentence in each paragraph. The conclusion should be a warning, a lesson, a statement. Don't repeat the question. The question repetition should be an introduction and not the similar words. It should be an explanation, an illustration through characters, general that is, or it should be a synonym used to explain. Now, when it comes to silent song, I don't know why there's a lot of predictions surrounding checkmate, the aspect of greed, quickly acquired wealth that does not help, the fact that the guilty are always afraid. So look at that on Sukia and Randall, the underestimation of methanol company, the fact of having a secretary who is not even informed about finance but is used, the fact of Sukia signing checks all the time and stealing money from clients, all that. Please check on it. Come and check on the story an incident in the park. It has been mentioned a lot, especially to do with the police brutality in general. Remember, in Kenya, there was a lot of that. So you may be surprised that it may come out. The police brutality. Please read on that concept. We've also seen a lot from that story in relation to the fact that poverty leads to dehumanization of one. And when you look at that, we have so many, like the aspect of idleness in the park, the aspect of poor livelihood, so that they don't have food, at the same time they don't have proper dressing. We've seen the fact that even selling, people are selling goods and they're being considered like they are crazy because ringing the bell all the time, yet there are no customers. Yeah, looking at the fact that even some people come out of office and they don't know where to go during lunchtime. We have jobless individuals who sit there and they even have to borrow a cigarette from each other. You know, all that is dehumanizing. Even the fact that the police mistreat this guy because he's poor. Yeah, so look at that story in details. The other story that has been expected is a silent song. The fact that the blind and the lame, the street life is dangerous. And when you look at that story, please go along with Neighborhood Watch and also check on it, because it is a story that is related. So if they pick on the concept of street life, harsh conditions of city life, they might pick on Neighborhood Watch, or they pick on a silent song. A silent song where we are looking at Mbane and the brother Ezekiel and the sister-in-law Sarah. Or, and that story carries hypocrisy, religious hypocrisy, of course, you understand that. And the fact that those who are disabled are limited in many ways on many things, whether it's acquiring the basic needs, whether it's earning a living, whether it's movement, whether it's in perspective. The way they look at life is not similar to those who have their ability. Now, the other story that has been highlighted is Truly Married Woman. Of course, the hypocrisy in marriages and on religious aspects in relation to Ayo and Ajai, and also Omo in relation to friendship, hypocritical friends. And the same story has an aspect of traditions, observation of traditions in societies. Then please go and check on Boi. Though the concept of civil wars is limited, but still it happens to be. We've seen this year, the Juba forces came to Kenya, so you never can tell. Maybe something like that may come out. So check on it as well, Boi. The fact that betraying those loved ones does not pay. Also, the suffering caused by the loss of loved ones. Then the effects of militia group. You check on that story. And when you check on that story, remember it's related to ghosts, guys. So Chimamada's story Ghosts is related to Boi. So when you revise the story Boi by Gloria Mwaniga, also revise the story Ghosts by Chimamada to get the concept of effects of war and also the ghosts that exist. And when we talk about ghosts, students, don't think that we are talking about ghosts, those people who died. Some of the ghosts are corruption itself, poverty, poor governance, and the fraud in general, like the medicine that is being sold when it's stale and the expired, but it's being used. Corruption in the manner that you cannot even maintain your television and electricity without paying some things. Then the poor state of affairs, the roads are too poor. The corruption that is happening in the university, the vice chancellor is even forcing some of the people to change their years so as to continue working because they cannot receive pension. The vice chancellor is also consuming pensioners' money. They keep going there and they can't get it. Then poverty in itself. You can see those people who are sitting under the tree when the lecturer comes, the former lecturer comes. They don't have what they eat, they have to borrow. They are even complaining the state of affairs that university students no longer pay them even when they repair their shoes and all that. Then now, I think generally that. The other story you have to pay attention to, poor parenting. Remember, parents don't have time with their kids these days. So that story of, it's called what? Sins of the Fathers. Please, consider going through it. You never can tell. The poor parenting or the effects of poor parenting or the fact that when we mess up with our kids, sometimes those ills will come back to us. Or the fact of absence of love is the presence of hatred. Those questions, I've seen them really emerging in very different mocks. Yeah. Which other story have I seen a lot? I think those are the stories I've really seen a lot. A lot. Okay. But again, remember, a man of awesome power has not been set, and it shows the misuse of power. So as we talk about this other story on power, that one is also an option. Ninema is not a difficult story, so I can't even talk about it. Even if it will come, I know no student can mess up in it. When you come to Artist of the Floating World, guys, the questions from it are very easy. The first year they said they focused on honor and the fact that there are past ills. And then the second year they tested on this boy, the granddaughter son to honor, and how he looked at women. So the concept within that text, you just look at like World War experience, the propagandas, art itself, and how it has been looked at in past and current with changes, the reformation of that of Japan, and the fact that people have to work towards a better life, and also concepts surrounding marriage. So whether you're talking about Noriko, you're talking about maybe Ono, you're talking about Pleasure City itself, and any other person, Morrison, among others, I know you'll make it. So thank you so much. Maybe I'll get time to do particular questions, but I'll be coming to a general prediction for paper 1. Then we go to paper 2, and then we can now go to particulars. But I know what I've talked about here, I'm so sure by the time you sit for that paper, I'll be smiling, remembering how I talked about one of the questions, that maybe 1 or 2 or 3 questions that are forthcoming. Bye-bye.